If you've never crocheted a hexagon cardigan before, you're in for a treat. This super chunky one is one of my most popular patterns that I've ever posted on my blog, and I know you guys have been waiting for a video. So we've got to give it a 2021 update with some stripes and a whole lot of jumbo weight yarn. Specifically, I used a little under 700 yards, aka 3.3 pounds, of Ice Yarn's Alpine XL, an economic dupe for Red Heart Grande, which you can also use. You'll also need an equally jumbo 15mm crochet hook, and something to mark a stitch for decreases. We'll be working towards 2 of these roughly hexagon motifs. All you gotta do is make them, fold them, and seam them. It's really just that simple. So to start your first hexagon, you're going to make a slip knot, and make a short chain of 4 chains. And then slip stitch into the first chain to join in the round. To make a little chain 4 circle. To start round 1, we're going to chain up 3, which counts as your first double crochet. Then, into your little chain 4 ring, you're going to work a double crochet. And you'll have 2 double crochets, and I'll make 1 more double crochet into that chain 4 ring. And you've got a little 3 double crochet cluster. Now it's time to work our first corner. To do that, chain 2. And make 3 more double crochets into the chain 4 circle. If you've ever crocheted a granny square before, this process is going to seem a little familiar. And that's because what we're making is essentially a solid granny hexagon. And if you've been watching as much Cocomelon during quarantine as I have, you know that a hexagon has 6 sides and 6 corners. So continue 3 double crochet, chain 2, until you have those 6 sides and 6 corners. It may get a little crowded up on this chain 4 ring that you're working in, but that's totally fine. I'm going to work my last corner by chaining 2, and then slip stitching into the top of my starting chain 3. My chain 3 kept to the side a little bit, but just remember he's part of the first 3 double crochet cluster. For round 2, we're going to work a stitch into every stitch from the previous row, so start by chaining up 3 and turn. And that chain 3 corresponds to the chain 3 from the previous row. So now it's actually time to work your first corner. To do that, you're going to work 2 double crochets into the chain space of the first corner. Then, chain 2, and again, make 2 double crochets right into that same chain space from the previous row. And that's how you'll work every corner of this hexagon. Next, we're going to work 1 double crochet into each stitch from the previous row, so I've got 3 double crochets to work right here. I've come to another corner, so it's time to work 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets, all into that chain space from the previous row. You then work 1 double crochet in every stitch up to the next corner, and work that 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet corner that I've shown you. And into the next set of 3 double crochets, we're actually going to do a 3 double crochet decrease. That's going to help shape the sleeve as our hexagon grows, so it stays straight and doesn't turn into a flared bell sleeve. But if you like that look, by all means, skip the decreases. So to do a 3 double crochet decrease, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook to pull up a loop as if to start a double crochet. Yarn over, pull through 2, but don't pull through the 2 remaining loops on your hook. Instead, yarn over and begin another double crochet into the next stitch. Pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. One more time, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Defend your hook from the toddler invasion, and with 4 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 4 loops to decrease 3 stitches down to 1. Okay, so now we've decreased, and we're going to mark that decreased stitch, which will make subsequent decreases easy to spot. Now we're at a corner, and you know what to do here. Continue making 1 double crochet into each stitch from the previous row, and working the corners as I've shown you. Here you can see I've worked up to the last stitch of the round, right up to my starting chain 3. And I just wanted to show you how your piece will not be laying flat. It's going to be all ruffly and ripply, and that's exactly what we want it to do. This ruffling is what will help it fold into that little half cardigan shape that we're going to want at the end. So again, slip stitch into the top of your starting chain 3 to complete the round. And for round 3, I'm going to show you how I changed color to make my striped cardigan. I'm going to fasten off my first color, and insert my hook underneath that slip stitch. Drape my new yarn over my hook to pull up a loop, and I can go ahead and chain 3, tightening up that first chain, and just like that I've fastened on my new color, and I can turn to start round 3. For round 3, we'll simply work 1 double crochet into each stitch from the previous round, and just like round 2, into the corners we'll work 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochet. And the only part I haven't shown you yet is what we do when we work up to that marked decrease stitch from the previous row. So here you see I've actually worked up to 1 stitch before the marked stitch, and those are the 3 stitches that we will work our next 3 double crochet decrease across. The stitch before the marked stitch, and the stitch after that. So I'll remove my marker to do my decrease. I'll work those 3 unfinished double crochets across the next 3 stitches to decrease my 3 stitches back down to 1. I'll replace the marker in my newly decreased stitch. And continue on like that, working stitch for stitch, corner for corner, and decreasing across the 3 stitches around the marker, changing color as you see fit, for a grand total of 8 rounds. That's right, each hexagon motif only takes 8 rounds of crochet to make this entire, giant, super chunky cardigan. Like I mentioned, it won't lay flat, but when we go to fold it, everything will come together. Line up the corners on either side of your sleeve marker and fold the hexagon in half, like so. And you can see right where we're going to need to seam, right along the tops of the sleeve and down the back. So to start that, you'll find your marker, bring the corners of either side together, and there's your little sleeve opening. And we'll seam along the shoulder line, starting at the sleeve edge. I grabbed a new yarn that's a little thinner than my working yarn, partly for a less bulky seam, and partly because I ran out of the jumbo weight yarn. So I'm going to pull up a loop through both of the chain spaces of these corners. Chain 1 to fasten on and turn so I can get my work going the right way, to start slip stitch seaming all these stitches together, up to the top of the shoulder. So I'm going to insert my hook into the first stitch and into the first stitch on the opposite side. Pull up a loop and slip stitch. Into the next stitch and slip stitch. This seam is so straightforward and easy because we're just working one for one, stitch for stitch. And when I worked into my last stitch, I can go ahead and slip stitch into the last chain space as well. And we've finished the sleeve seam on one half. This will be the front of the cardigan and the back. I've already seamed the sleeve on the other hexagon, and now we can seam the back center edges together. And I wanted to add that this is the point where you can add extra rows of double crochet to either hexagon for larger sizes. I recommend 1 row of double crochet for every size above a large. So 1 extra row for XL, 2 extra rows for 2XL, and so on. So let me get myself all organized here. I've got one sleeve out one side, and the other sleeve is over on this side. I have my back edges facing each other right here, and I want to get my live loop through the chain space on the other hexagon. So I'm just going to remove my hook and place it in the chain space to pull my live loop through. Now I'm ready to start slip stitch seaming all these stitches one for one. Into the first stitch, into the other first stitch, and slip stitch. And when you've worked all the way to the bottom edge, again, you can place your last slip stitch into these chain spaces and fasten off. And here's what we've got. This cardigan is actually inside out. The thick seam will go on the inside. So I'm going to weave these ends in and turn my guy right side in and start the fashion show. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I love my new statement cardi, and I can hardly believe there's only 16 rows of crochet in this thing. And if you make one of your own, please, please, please share it with me wherever you post online. I can't wait to see what color combos you pick. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!